This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to your live safari of today. We're sitting here with a family of warthogs. My name is Lauren. I do have Davi on camera, and we're currently in Djuma Game Reserve, South Africa, bringing you your live safari. So a big warm welcome to everyone, especially all the kids around the world who are watching and jumping on board with us. I believe we have families from England, Scotland, US of A, Netherlands, and of course South Africa. So a big hi to mums, dads, and teachers, of course, as well. It's a great pleasure to have you here. So you must ask us questions, you must send them in, and you can email them to kids@wildearth.tv. And of course, from our side, we'll try our very best to answer them. Now, normally warthogs are very skittish, so this is actually a lovely sighting to start this very hot afternoon off with. If I remember correctly, the temperature is 37 degrees Celsius and 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Hello, little piglets. We can see you guys. They're very relaxed. Here, in particular in this game reserve, they're very skittish. And normally if you make sudden movement or even talk, they run away. So here, I think we have a mama and two youngsters. There was another adult who did decide to run away. But we've been lucky enough to have a great little sighting with these three. Now you can tell the difference between male and female warthogs by looking at the warts. So this is definitely a female. You can also see her teats. So she's definitely the mother of these two. Oh, it's toilet time. Lovely. One of the little ones is doing the toilet. And they're actually getting quite big. When warthogs are first born, they're very small. So these ones are getting bigger and bigger, and of course this is an advantage. And if you look at the tufts on the side of their face, from a distance, maybe Davi can give you a close view. Oh, maybe not. But when you actually look from a distance, it looks like tusks. And it's not the tusks, but the hair is designed to look like tusks to make them seem dangerous. So that predators will think, oh, they've got tusks, they're able to protect themselves. But actually, they're too young and they really don't have tusks at this age. It's just hair. Isn't that amazing? Fern! You're either 7 or 8. I'm not sure, but you are in Scotland. Hi, fellow Scot. It's good to hear from you, Fern. You're actually asking what warthogs eat. Now, they're herbivores, which means that they only eat plant matter. So they don't eat any other animals or insects or anything like that. They feed on plant matter. So you can see right now, I think they're feeding on the grass. So they eat a variety of things, but they do love to munch on grass. And sometimes they will actually bend down onto their little elbows, if you like, and they will dig. And what they're digging for, Fern, is bulbs and tubers that are under the ground. So we actually can't see them, but essentially they know they're there because they can smell them, and they will dig them out of the ground with those big tusks. But essentially the biggest part of their diet, Fern, is grasses. They love to eat grass. They can also munch on fruits as well. If there's any wild fruits on the ground, they will also feast on the fruits. This is just such a lovely sighting. Sometimes we try really hard to put warthogs on camera for you all, and they run away. But these ones are not. And you can see they're enjoying the shade. It's very hot here today. I apologize, everyone. Apparently, I gave you the wrong email address. Oops-a-daisy. It's not kids@wildearth.tv. It actually is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. That was very naughty of me. I'm sorry. I will ingrain that in my brain. So please do send the questions to the correct email address and not the wrong one, because we definitely won't receive those ones. I have learned my lesson. So yes, kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. I don't actually know how young these warthogs are. I would really like to be able to establish an age, but I think they are quite young and they really won't travel too far from Mum. Mum is their protector. And if Mum senses danger and she flees, the youngsters will also flee. They copy Mum. They watch Mum and copy whatever she does, they will do. Apart from this little one who's currently lying down and relaxing. Folk, you are watching from Vietnam. You're 9 years old. That is absolutely incredible. I must tell you that Vietnam is on my dream list of destinations to visit in Asia. I've been to many, many countries in Vietnam, but in Asia, sorry, but Vietnam is right up there. So welcome, folk. It's lovely to hear from you. So warthogs are named after the little warts, but yes, essentially they are also called piggies. Warthog, hog means pig, but they're completely different from the pigs that the domesticated pigs that you see on farms, should we say. They're not similar to that, but they are essentially called hogs because hog does mean pigs. So yes. Davi and I, my cameraman and I, actually found warthogs in Ethiopia recently, and they're much bigger, much bigger than this, and they're very, very friendly. They were really relaxed and they used to come up to our tents. They were not scared of people at all. Okay, this has been such a lovely sight, and to start off what I know is going to be a great drive, we're going to bumble on and see what else we can find for you. But of course, I'm not the only one out today, and James wants to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon and welcome to this particular part of the Sunset Safari. That is an impala, and my name is James Henry, and we have got Owen on the camera today. Please send us your questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. For the first 45 minutes, we will be dedicating the show to kids, that is human beings between the ages of 0 and 18. The rest of you can pretend to be kids and send your questions to the same email address. So we've got 3 rams, and we've just started to hear the first roaring. Now, I bet a lot of you didn't know that impalas roar. Well, they do. They make a loud roaring noise at around about this time of the year when they decide that they don't like each other very much, and they start fighting, and they start to fight over the ladies, or the ewes, as we call female impala. And so very shortly there won't be in these little bachelor groups of rams, that's what we call the males. They will be on their own trying to set up little territories and keep all the ladies or the ewes inside those little territories. Because in May, they will start the very serious business of trying to make impala lambs. It's just disappearing behind the bush there. Now, it's about 34 degrees Celsius, I would say. That's a very pleasant sort of a temperature to have out here. I think that's about 89 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not actually sure how many Fahrenheits it is, but it's nice and warm, pretty hot, glorious autumnal afternoon, and I'm led to believe that unfortunately tomorrow we'll have a cold front coming through. It won't be actually cold, but it might be a little blustery and overcast. So because it's warm, what we're going to do is go from Waterhole to Waterhole this afternoon and hopefully bump into some elephants. If we're really lucky, we'll find a cat having a drink. And if we're uber superbly lucky, we'll have some wild dogs maybe, or a cheetah. So that's the plan for the afternoon. Now, Frank, there are 2 parts of your question. You're only 4 years old, and that's quite a sophisticated question, so well done. You say, can gazelles outrun lions? So let's just stop here. There's another impala up front there. That is not a gazelle. right? That is an antelope. And gazelles are a type of antelope. And so I must answer the first question, can gazelles outrun antelope? Well, the fastest antelope, can they outrun lions? The fastest antelope in Africa is something called the Thompson's gazelle. And the Thompson's gazelle is definitely fast enough to outrun a lion. These impala are probably about the same speed as a lion. But if they start running at the same time as the lion and the lion's not close enough, the lion will give up. And so they're probably not quite as fast actually over a short distance. The lions are probably faster. The lions are incredibly quick over a short distance. All right, we're going to go now back to Lauren, who's got some more impala rams.
I do have impala, but what's amazing about this pair, two rams, two boys, is that they're trying to be dominant here. And they're thinking about having a battle, but they're also thinking, oh, can we really be bothered to battle? Their tails were up. They're walking very slowly, conscious of their body posture, because very soon here in South Africa it will be rutting season. And what that means is that all... he's thinking about it. Look. Oh, they're thinking about it. They're going to spar. Oh, no, we're going to groom. Okay, really not that serious, are we? So the testosterone, that male hormone, is rising in the male impalas, and very, very soon they will be competing for all the females. So rutting is the name given to that season. The males will try and mate with as many females as they can, and of course all the females will become pregnant at the same time. And that's a great thing, because what that means is they all give birth to lambs at the same time. And rutting season is generally April, May. And it normally happens when you have that shorter day length because winter is coming. So these two, they keep fighting. Look, they're really not sure of one another. Oh, you see that? Arabella, Roslyn, and Sunid. You're all asking, why do the male impalas stay on the edge of the herd? Essentially, they don't. So normally, everybody's friends. The males are friends, and sometimes they will act... Oh, look at them. Sometimes they will have their own herd, and they call these herds bachelor herds, and it's only for the males. But then sometimes you'll find rams, ewes, and lambs all together in one herd, and this is called a breeding herd. But what's happening right now is the males are starting to become aggressive. They can't help it. It's hormonal, and they're starting to get ready to fight because competition for the ladies is about to happen. They're going to become very aggressive with one another. They will fight, and they're going to become very noisy. You can hear them from our camp. Sometimes all you can hear is impala. And it's something like, meh, meh. Well, actually, that sounds more like a sheep. Davi, can you do it? Oh, okay, something like that. I think we both failed on that account. The first one was more like a sheep. I apologize. It was a sheep stroke impala, but it's a very snorty, guttural sound, and it's non-stop. And they also chase the ladies non-stop. So it's just starting. It's only just beginning. We're just in the middle of April, I think. I lose track of time out here, but I think we're in April. And this is the boys' behaviour starting to change. And this is an incredible sighting because you can actually see they're not fully ready to compete yet, but it's starting to happen. And very soon we will see rams and ewes mating. Cody, you are in Johannesburg. Wow, that's exactly where I stay when I am not working. I am normally living in Johannesburg. What a lovely city you have. And you are asking, how long do impala live for? Generally speaking, because of the behavior of the boys that you can see right now, the females outlive the males. But generally their lifespan is 12 years. This is an average figure because sometimes some will die young and some will live a little bit longer. So it's an average figure, but the females are always said to live longer because they do not fight like the boys do. The boys have horns, like you can see, the females do not. And they actually can really injure one another if they want to. Now that was a bit silly. You can see one scratching his head on the vegetation. I don't know if you could see that, but that's a territorial display. He's trying to say, this is my patch, matey. I want you to leave. This is my turf. But then he's thinking, oh no, actually, I'm scared. You're bigger than me. Ari and Miles, you're in Cape Town. Wow, lots of children from South Africa. This is great. You're asking, can they grow a new horn if it breaks? Actually, no. So the horns are made from bones. So if you ever look at an impala skull, the skull just has two extensions. It's just two long, curvy pieces of bone. And the brown part that you can see, Davi's given you incredible views of, is the outer layer. And this is made from keratin. And keratin's a very strong material that's also in our own fingernails and our hair. So essentially, if they break a horn, it's a piece of bone and it will never grow back. We do see impala with broken horns and snapped horns. This pair, what are you doing? They're really not sure of one another. They don't really want to fight, but biologically their bodies are telling them, I need to be territorial. This is my patch. They look roughly the same age as well. You can gauge an impala's age. That rhymes. You can gauge an impala's age by looking at the horns. And this pair's horns are almost exactly the same length and shape. So I think they're roughly the same age. I feel like the one on the right is slightly bigger, but I don't know if that's just an illusion. What do you think, Davi? A little bit bigger. And that's why I think the one on the left keeps getting scared. He keeps thinking, oh no, you're bigger. I'm changing my mind. So what they're doing here is displaying touching, not hurting one another. They don't want it to get to that stage, so they're not quite sparring just yet. Ah, boys will be boys. I think you pair should have a cup of tea and a biscuit. The one on the right's got a much thicker neck, and that does tell you that he probably is bigger, and maybe he's got more testosterone. He might be stronger. During this season, they get much sort of thicker, larger necks, and this is, of course, to impress the females. This is so exciting that impala rutting season's about to start. Kingston, age 8, you're asking how do impalas win the fight? Normally, they avoid physical fights because if one of them gets injured, they might not survive. Look how sharp and big those horns are. But if it does resort to fighting, they normally lock their horns. Now, Davi was giving you an incredible view of the horns, and you can see they're ridged. You can see there's actually a ridge, and that means that when they do lock horns, they can actually lock them completely together with those ridges, and of course the stronger one will win. So ultimately, Kingston, what they hope will happen is that the weaker one will leave and just walk away. Leave the territory or leave the lady, whichever one they're fighting for. If animals, of course, do injure one another, then they might not be able to survive, and it can lead to death. So I think what's happening now, they're not quite fighting over the ladies yet. They're fighting over this area, this little piece of land that they want for their territory. Can't believe it's this time of year already. It feels like not so long ago all the female ewes were giving birth. Time flies out here. Josh, you're 15. Generally speaking, no, they try to avoid that, of course. They don't want to kill one another, but it can happen. If they end up puncturing one another with those sharp horns, they can kill one another, I'm afraid. But it's not so common in impalas. With Inyalas, another antelope, which I'm hoping to show you, we've got many in camp. For some reason, the Inyalas are all coming to our camp. I don't quite know why, but it's lovely to have them around. I opened my door and said, "Oh, hello, Mr. Inyala." They're everywhere. But with Impala, I'm going to think we should bumble now, Davi. They tend not to fight to the death, but Inyala do. So if I spot any Inyalas around here, I am going to stop and show you them all. Now, boys, behave. They're going their separate ways now. You see that? Yes, I think they've done with their battling for today. Okay, I'm going to see what else I can find out here. We're going to head to a waterhole to see who's drinking. And for now, we're going to send you back across to James to see what his plans are.
I am nearly at the waterhole in the northeastern corner of Juma. In case those of you who have been watching for a while now are wondering where Ngala is this afternoon, we are just having a few technical difficulties getting a signal from Ngala, so that's why we haven't been over to see what's happening that end of the world. And so it's just the two of us at the moment at Djuma Private Game Reserve here in the Sabi Sand, which is in the northeast corner of Africa. And they are at where, quite astonishingly, nothing is swimming except the usual suspects, which are, of course, the hippopotamus. There we go, Owen. Let us see if we can find the hippopotamus. And I will cast my binoculars, powerful binoculars, over the shoreline to see if anything is lurking in the shade. And we also have a grebe. Where is it? Oh, there he is. There is the wee grebe. Jonathan Marnich and Alexander, all the way from Iran. Wow, it's great to hear from you. Really very special indeed. You want to know about pangolins and the chances of seeing a pangolin. Well, the pangolin species that we get here is called the Temminck's ground pangolin. And the Temminck's ground pangolin is extremely unusual. So they're not that rare. I mean, they're around. We find their tracks and we find their droppings every so often. And we find their burrows. But we very, very, very seldom see them. And that's because they are very secretive birds, but they're not birds at all, mammals. And they operate at night. So they normally move around during the night time, and not even kind of early evening. It'll normally be late at night. And so we don't often see them at all. So I think the chances of us seeing one are very tiny, but not impossible. Kate Lily, you're in Spain. Hola. I think that's how you say hello in Spanish, isn't it? You're wondering about the number of waterholes in the park. Well, remember that the park is the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park, and that is 3.5 million hectares in extent. So I don't have any clue how many waterholes there are in the entire area. But on Juma, where I operate, we have this waterhole, Treehouse Waterhole, where Lauren's going, Twin Dams, the Juma Dam, So those are the 4 big ones that we have here. And then you'll find at this time of the year that there are lots and lots of little pans, as we call them. Now, a pan is a temporary waterhole that is naturally occurring. So it will be a puddle at one stage, and then a warthog will come and roll in it, and it'll get a little bit deeper, and then another warthog will come and roll in it, and it'll get a bit deeper, and then a buffalo will come and roll in it, and it'll get a bit deeper still, and then a rhino, and eventually you have a little waterhole that is only there after the rains. So they will dry up during the winter time, and I have no idea how many of those there are. There are lots of them on this reserve, and that's why when you come to a waterhole like this on a hot afternoon, it sometimes is very quiet, because the animals don't necessarily have to come down to this sort of a waterhole to get water. They can often just go to one of the pans, the temporary seasonal pans. Now we've got the hippos. Are you on the hippo zone? And there are 4 of them, I think. Yes, 2 youngsters there, and then 1 tiny baby and her mother. Hello, Kayla, aged 11, who was 10 yesterday and is 11 now. It's your birthday today. Happy birthday. I hope you're not just saying that. I used to say that at restaurants so that I'd get a free sparkler. You want to know if hippos eat frogs? No, hippos don't eat frogs. Hippos eat grass and sometimes a little bit of water vegetation, but they don't eat frogs unless it's by mistake. So maybe they'll be sitting under the water and a frog will come swimming by and they'll take a breath and find themselves with a frog in the mouth. Must be a bit of a shock, don't you think? It's a bit like when a bug lands in your food and you put it in your mouth by mistake. Not sure if that's ever happened to you. Happens to us here quite a lot. So we'll sit here for about 5 minutes and then we'll move on. Well, that's a good question, Elna. Do you remember the story of the big bad wolf? Well, actually, the story wasn't called that. The story was called Red Riding Hood. And when Red Riding Hood said to the big bad wolf, "Why are your ears so big?" the big bad wolf said, "All the better to hear you with, my dear." And he meant it. His ears are big so that he can hear well. Now, a hippopotamus doesn't use its ears nearly as much as it uses its eyes and its nose. So that's one reason. It uses its eyes and its nose. The other reason is that it puts its head under the water a lot, and so if it had a great big hole leading to its eardrums, it would probably result in a lot of pressure build-up in the ear. Now, you don't really need to remember that, other than to say the smaller the ear is, the less we think that there would be pressure, or the less the amount of water that will flow into the ears. But I think it's mainly because they use their noses and their eyes to find threats or predators and to find food and each other. So they don't have to hear as well as the big bad wolf. Matthew, you are 5 years old in Pretoria and a budding literary genius, I see. You want to know what the plural is of hippopotamus. There's no ways that I knew what the word plural was when I was 5 years old, so I'm most impressed. The plural of hippopotamus is actually hippopotamuses. But some people like to say hippopotami. I quite like to say hippopotami. But I think correctly it is hippopotamuses. And in actual fact, you could probably just use the singular like you use with sheep. 1 sheep, 2 sheep, 3 sheep, 7 billion sheep. And you could say 1 hippopotamus, 2 hippopotamus, and 45 hippopotamus. Then we've got one last thing here. We've got there a terrapin, which is just foraging around. Unfortunately, it has got a fright when Ern moved and now dived under the water. It'll come up eventually. I hope. Come on, little Terrapin. This is a freshwater turtle, which I'm pretty sure we've shown most of you before. And he's just floating around. He's doing exactly what I would like to be doing right now, which is lying in the water cooling down on a very hot afternoon. No, he's gone. Severe, you're in Durban and wondering if hippos are the most dangerous animal in Africa. No, they're not. You know, the most dangerous animal in Africa is in fact the mosquito. The mosquito is the carrier of malaria, and malaria kills a lot more people than hippopotamus do. So, no, they're not the most dangerous animal in Africa. Next to the mosquito, of course, the human being is the most dangerous animal in Africa. We kill far more people than any wild animal does. And then, I suppose the hippo is considered dangerous because if you happen to live on a river and you have to go and collect water from a river, or you have to get across rivers, then hippo can be dangerous. They are potentially dangerous. That means that they're not always dangerous. Those hippos aren't doing anything to us, are they? They're just sitting there and they're living their lives. The problem is that they are very afraid if they feel like they can't get into the water, because the water is their protection, it is their everything. And so if you separate a hippopotamus from the water, even by mistake, the hippo can become very afraid. And when any animal becomes afraid, it becomes dangerous, because it sometimes sees no option but to fight or attack. And so that's why people think that hippo are so dangerous. They are potentially very dangerous, but they are not dangerous all the time. I think that's an important lesson for all of us to learn. Most wild animals will only attack human beings if they feel so afraid that they don't think there's anything else they can do to protect themselves. Mostly they will just move away. So you've got to make an animal very, very angry indeed to make it attack a human being. So Hana, no, hippos in fact don't swim underwater. They walk on the ground. They are, I suppose, what we'd call semi-buoyant, which means they don't actually float. They sink to the bottom, but very slowly. And then if they've got a big lung full of air, they'll probably sink even slower. But they can't actually swim as such. They walk along the bottom of the water, and then when they want to come up, they just push themselves up like you might in a pool, and they come up. Oh, and we've got a lapwing now. It's very exciting. The lapwings are very, very faithful to us. They're always at the waterholes. And now a wonderful question all the way from Bahrain. Qian, a terrapin is a freshwater turtle. So they live in the fresh water, like this. Has no salt in it. And a turtle lives in the sea, normally. There are three kinds of chelonids, as we call them, or chelonians. I forget which one is correct these days. We've got terrapins and tortoises, and then sea turtles. And sea turtles live in the sea, tortoises live on land, and terrapins live in fresh water, although they can be on land as well. They're quite good at moving on land, but they like to be in the water more. And most sea turtles are quite big in comparison with terrapins. Terrapins tend to be a lot smaller. All right, I think we've probably seen about as much of this dam as we can. So let's move on from here and Lauren has got more pigs and more antelope.
I have. We seem to have a social gathering in front of us. Another territorial male, I think. I think this impala has decided I want this little patch of land to be my territory. And the pigs, well, they're just eating. They don't really care that they're in his territory. Impalas you rarely find on their own, only during the rut. So I think the males are now separating and trying to find the best area to advertise themselves, of course, to get the ladies. This is a different family of warthogs, also very relaxed. What's happening? Oh, I think we've got one. Oh no, he's not on his elbows. I was mentioning earlier how they go down on their knees, stroke elbows. I don't think they have either. But the joints on their forelegs to get food. And I was hoping that one of them maybe will do it for us. Now, impalas are great animals to pay attention to. They're very alert. They're always listening, looking, and smelling for predators. So sometimes it's actually worth paying attention to an impala, because they will give up the predator's game if they spot it. They'll let the whole world know the predator's there. Won't you, boy? He's so handsome. Yes, you are. I think he's getting shy. How about we try and get a little bit closer, Davi? I can see a wildebeest up ahead as well. Gabriella, age 3. Wow, you're in Cape Town. Hello, guys. Why is nobody shy today? What's happening to the world? Normally, they all run. No, they don't lay eggs. Both warthogs and impalas are mammals, the same as we are. Humans are mammals, and mammals do not lay eggs, I'm afraid. So this is a boy. This impala is a ram, a male. And it will be the females that give birth. They will give live birth to baby little lambs, baby little impalas. This boy's done very well to position himself in the shade. It's a very small patch of shade, and somehow he's managed to find it to escape this very intense heat that we're suffering from today. Now, we did have some elephants, but they walked off into the thicket, I'm afraid. So I've got a feeling that there could be some elephants down at this waterhole. So what I want to do is just say hi and bye to our warthogs and impala and make our way to the watering hole that's not too far away, in the hope that some elephants are having a pool party. Hello. Say hi to everyone watching. Oh, no. Oh. This one's down. Oh, no, there we go. Off they go. Once the warthogs run off into the grass is so long you actually can't see them. They completely disappear in the grass. Okay, let's get to this waterhole. Oh, one more time, Natalie. I didn't get that one, I'm afraid. Ryan in Johannesburg. Not in the game park we don't get bush pigs, but I think in the surrounding areas, I believe in our nearest town called Hoedspruit, you may have heard of it if you're from Johannesburg, you do get bush pigs, but not here in the reserve. I've never seen one anyway. Have you, Davi? No, we don't get bush pigs here, but they are found in the surrounding areas, Ryan. And of course they are different from warthogs. It's only really warthogs that we get in this game reserve, at least. Okay, I've got my fingers crossed for a pool party. Elephants love to swim when it's nice and hot. They also need to avoid the heat, keep cool, and jumping in the water is the perfect way to keep cool. They love it. You can just see they're having so much fun. But if we don't see any elephants here, we're going to try and look back and find the ones that we had. Philip, you are 9 and you are asking about honey badgers. Yes, we have. We get honey badgers out here and I just love them. Honey badgers are the coolest. They're the daredevils of the bush. They're small. They're very bizarre looking. I often think they've had a really terrible haircut at the barbers. But they are fierce. They will chase away lions, chase away leopards. Nothing scares them, really. They're very, very cool animals. And we do get them here, but you tend to see them a little bit more sort of at night time and during summer, as it is now, because everything's so thick. It makes it really tricky for us to find animals. It's a lot easier to find animals in summer. So sadly, I don't know if I'll be able to find a honey badger for you, Philip, but I'll definitely try. Oh, it appears that no one is at the Waterhole. I think we should go back and find those elephants. What do you think, Davi? Sometimes we get lucky and we come here and there's things happening, sometimes not. I am definitely not going to get that name. Davi, did you get it? Yes, Natalie, you may have to spell it, but we're going to give you a view of this waterhole. Kyra. With a V at the end. Kyrav, what a lovely name. You're also in Johannesburg and you're asking about the waterholes. They're all different. Every single waterhole is different. This one we call Treehouse Dam. And I have a mixed relationship with Treehouse Dam. Sometimes it delivers, sometimes it really doesn't. It doesn't appear to be doing much today, but they all vary in shapes and sizes. I think the biggest one we have in this area is probably Chitswa. We're not able to go to Chitswa at the moment, I'm afraid, but that's probably the biggest and the deepest dam. Now, as we move into winter, which is coming soon, winter is coming, the dams will sort of lose their water and they'll become shallower and shallower and shallower till eventually they completely dry up. And once they've dried up, the animals can no longer really come here for water. So the hippos, for example, will have to move. They'll have to find a new watering hole. All the animals that come down here to drink will have to find a different place to drink. So winter and summer here in South Africa, in the bush, there's a vast contrast between the two. And it really does affect the animals. So you can see how green it is and how thick it is. This means it's summer. There's insects buzzing everywhere. Lots of lovely flies landing on your face. Mosquitoes chomping at your ankles. Delightful. Butterflies fluttering round. And of course, summer is lush and winter is very barren. Okay, I'm going to try and find these elephants for you, and as I make my way round to them, we are going to send you back across to Mr. Henry.
We are approaching another one of those little waterholes. This time it's more of a pan than a waterhole. There it is. Let us see if there is anything drinking. Well, there doesn't seem to be great much in the way of enormous animals, but there's a butterfly. You see it, Owen? It is the colour of l'orange. It is on the other side, flapping quietly in the shade. Can you see? Difficult to describe. It's to the left, sort of-ish. Pretty much in the middle. And it's got its wings folded at the moment. It's on the bank, just close to where the water starts. Any luck? I mean, I can come there and aim the camera for you, maybe. Let me do it for you quickly. You're in the right, almost in the right place. There we go. Right. It's there, Owen. You got it. It's very difficult to see. I wouldn't have seen it, but it opened its wings once, and then I saw it. Now I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is a special butterfly known as a painted lady, but it might be a joker. You're going with joker, are you, Owen? I always get confused when their wings are folded, but I'm going to look on my butterfly app, which is a very clever thing, which will tell me what it is. Yes, I'm afraid that
Version coming?
Owen is correct. It is a spotted joker, or an African joker. I think it's a spotted joker, from what I can see there. Alrighty, kids, that's the end of your special show, but you can carry on watching. Nothing untoward is going to take place in the next 2 hours and 15 minutes, so thank you very much for joining us. Now, for the rest of you, you can send your questions to the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. Otherwise, you can use the chat stream on YouTube. Otherwise, if you're watching on Twitch, you can send us a question through the chat stream on Twitch. And if you missed it, my name is James Henry. On camera is Owen. And we are sitting here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the northeastern lowveld of South Africa. I'm hoping that we're going to find something slightly more entertaining than one butterfly that seems fairly reticent to be on the camera, and it's not a particularly rare butterfly by any stretch. But I have yet to hear any shouting from elephants, or any great enthusiastic calling from lions or leopards, which we wouldn't really expect at this time of the day, would we? Still, it's always very peaceful to sit at a waterhole like this and enjoy it. Milan, I've got an app for butterflies, for birds, for reptiles or snakes, frogs, and mammals. So mammals, butterflies, snakes, birds, and frogs. Those are the apps that I have. I would normally have a book, Milan, but unfortunately I was on a collection of books and field guides, especially for insects. But unfortunately I had to rush here from the Khalachadi to get here before lockdown. So I had to leave, all my books are sitting in Johannesburg being unread by anyone. So the apps are pretty good, but I tell you where they fall behind, or they fall short of the books, is that it's difficult to flick between different things. So if you think you've seen something, and then you can flick between it and go and check up, it's much easier in a book than it is on these apps. Although I'm sure the designers of the apps would disagree. Right, well, I think we've probably milked the sighting of this African joker sufficiently. Oh! Connor, aged 10, utterly unrelated to that butterfly, possibly a hint from Connor that we should move on, which we shall. The difference between a browser and a grazer, Connor, is that a grazer eats grass and a browser eats leaves off a tree. So to tell the difference, you have only to watch what it is eating. Okay. Let us move along. And then, Connor, don't forget, you also get mixed feeders. And mixed feeders will eat both the leaves off trees and grass. So an impala is a mixed feeder. You might describe an elephant as a mixed feeder. And most animals, or most herbivores, will eat both to a certain extent, but some are predominantly grazers and some are predominantly browsers. Now, this is not a very comfortable road, but we're going to take it nevertheless, in the hopes that it has something beautiful on it. We will now go back across to Lauren, who will give you an update on her plans again.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to, well, the adult side of life, and of course, all the children that are still watching us. Just for reintroductions, my name is Lauren, and Davi is still my cameraman. I haven't lost him just yet. And apologies for my awkward, well, very awkward turning. I have hurt my neck. I don't know what I have done, and it's agony. Again, this happens a lot to me, and this is how I'm going to talk to you all. Wonderful. But at least I'm still out, and at least we can still have this safari. But just in case you wonder why I'm acting so bizarre, that is why. So we're just going to quickly pop our nose in at a pan here and see what is around. And I believe those of you who were watching the sunrise safari got to glimpse the one and only Marcel, whose IQ is absolutely through the roof, and he has a photographic memory, and he knows facts like no other. So I thought, why don't I get my cameraman in front of the camera as well, Mr. David Eastaugh. So, because you don't get to see the cameraman that often, I thought, why don't we get Davi to answer one question per day? Send in your questions for Davi, whatever you want to know about him, or whatever you want him to answer. FC will pick one. We'll give you about half an hour to send them in, and we'll get Davi in front of the camera. Oh, hello there. And he will answer your questions. How does that sound, Davi? Are you nervous?
So nervous.
Scared?
Horrified.
And then at least you can see our wonderful cameraman who, well, this operation would not be possible without them. What we do here, we have the most incredible... Don't fly away. Oh, the whole operation would not be possible without cameramen like that who are able to keep up with birds. And that's not easy. Trust me, I've tried. So to give you all a glimpse of the cameraman, that's exactly what we'll do. Now, I nicknamed this pan Lauren's Pan just because it didn't actually have a name. And I love it so much. It's quietened down a lot since the start of summer. It's a lot greener, actually. There's a lot of algae on the water. When water bodies are stagnant, which means there's no influx of water. It's not a river. There's not... Oh, can you see that hovering? Is that a kingfisher? Yes, it's a pied kingfisher. Yes. Hello. I have not seen you in so long. Did you see it hovering like that, everyone? That is really exciting because not all kingfishers can do that. The pied, I think, is one of my favorite kingfishers to actually witness in the wild. They get their name, of course, after the black and white coloration, but to see them actually doing that, I'm not sure. Did we capture it, Davi? Sort of. I was a bit slow on the uptake there as well. I didn't realize it was a kingfisher. So yes, the kingfishers, the reason that it's so special to see them do that is because they're not quite the same as hummingbirds, and their movements are slightly different from what you will see hummingbirds do. And they're able to hover, oh look at it, it's beautiful. They're able to hover like that, whereas most other kingfishers cannot. And basically, they're doing a very unique technique. So with their wings, they're creating a figure of 8. Their wings are moving in a figure of 8 pattern, and this is keeping them in the same place at the same time. So it's not the same as a hummingbird, but it's absolutely amazing to watch. But it's very, very costly for them. It uses up a lot of their energy, essentially. So they don't do it for long, but they do it to fish. He's looking for food. Haley, you're asking what's a pan? A pan is essentially a water body that's not really a dam. It just fills up. So this has probably been created from weathering, erosion over time. Possibly even because this dam wall was created. We were resulted in a sort of concave hole in the ground, which just naturally fills up with water when summer arrives. In winter, this is completely empty. You would not even recognize it, Haley. It's completely different, and essentially we just give the sort of water bodies that are not dams. Wow. He caught something. He's got a fish or an insect. Well done, Davi. I don't actually know what he caught, but it's either a very, very small fish or some sort of aquatic insect. Wow, we have a pied kingfisher hunting. This is so cool, everyone. We don't see them too often. They're not rare, but we don't always see them. Jack, you're 13 and you live in Johannesburg. We rarely see the fish, to be honest, but there absolutely will be fish in the water bodies. Normally, these sort of fish get transported actually on bird legs. Oh, I don't think he caught anything that time. I think that was a bath. I think that was a cooling down dip. We do get tilapia, catfish out here. They're probably the most common ones. They're the ones with the barbels on the chin that they use as sensory organs. Catfish are very, very cool. That was another bath. Oh, I wish I could do that. Do you think I could get away with dive bombing in here and running back out again? Imagine. So yes, we do get lots of species of fish, but it's very rare that we see them. And I think the two most common are tilapias and catfish. In the bigger dams, they're all like Chitwa. They will hold the biggest sort of catfish populations. The other dams will have smaller fish. And I actually studied fish. I'm a fishy person. Yes, I like fish. Very much. So I know a lot about fish, and I've sadly only seen dead ones here. The Chitwa watering hole that hopefully we can get to show you all soon. We can't go there at the moment, I'm afraid. It's on a different property, but we can soon, and it's amazing. And it became very stagnant. The water became very, very concentrated with bacteria that came from excessive hippopotamus poop. There was so many hippos in the water, they were all pooping, and it led to such a high concentration of nutrients. This is so cute. It's like a nutrient overload that it starved various parts of the water of oxygen, and lots of fish died. So all the fish washed up in the shore, and we actually got to spend time with our famous leopard Tingana, who some of you have not yet had the pleasure of meeting, and he was eating all the fish. And that's the first time and the only time really I've got to see fish here. This is so cool. This kingfisher is cleaning itself. So it obviously had a snack and then it went for a bath. Very productive. And now it's sort of cleaning its feathers using its beak. Can you see that? It's got a very long, straight, sharp beak, which is perfect for hunting. Wow. Oh, it seems like we are on fire with the birds today, and James has a woodpecker for you.
Yes, I have a woodpecker for you. There it is. Now, we get 4 species of woodpecker in this part of the world. We get the bearded woodpecker, the cardinal woodpecker, the golden-tailed woodpecker, and also the Bennett's woodpecker. Now that particular thing that we're looking at there is a golden-tailed woodpecker. Can you still see it? It just popped its head around. You know what? No, it is. It's a golden-tailed. I was quite excited briefly. I thought it might be a Bennett's, which is less common here. But there are 2 reasons it isn't. Well, first of all, it doesn't look like one, because it's got the wrong markings on the face and chest. Oh, no, I've frightened it away. Yes, he's gone, Owen. Oh, beastly bird. Anyway, let me show you on my app. Can you see that, Owen? Got him. So that was the golden-tailed, and what was diagnostic was the markings on the face and the slightly sort of red moustache. And the Bennetts you'd expect to be feeding on the ground, actually. It feeds on the ground. But you can see it looks quite similar, but the face is very different. Alrighty, so 1 woodpecker to us. That thing's got a really kind of disturbing call. You might expect to hear it in a comedic horror film. It goes... So not really terrifying, but sort of comically terrifying. They didn't like the sound of this diesel engine though. We shall continue and see what else the wilderness has to offer us. Imka, aged 8 in Cape Town, wanting to know why a woodpecker would like to peck wood. Well, it does remind me, Imka, of the old saying, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? I suppose we could modify that to how much wood would a woodpecker peck if a woodpecker could peck wood? And of course a woodpecker can peck wood, and so the woodpecker pecks as much wood as the woodpecker can peck. Imka, they peck wood because they drill into the wood to get insects that live inside the wood. And so it's a very clever adaptation they have that very few birds have, where they're able to drill into wood in order to take out the insects that are living there. And there are very few birds that are able to drill their own holes in trees, and they are one. The barbets can also do it, but the barbets do it to excavate their nest holes, and many other birds will use a woodpecker's nest hole. They can also drill holes for their nests, and many other birds will use those nest holes once the woodpeckers have left them. What a good question. They peck wood mainly in order to get at the insects living under the bark or in the wood. A strong smell of elephant here. But that is because they have dunged all over the road, not because there seem to be any elephants around. Lauren, I believe, is now milking out Lauren's pan for everything it's worth, which I think is a very good idea.
We have a dragonfly for you, one of my favorite insects to look at. I absolutely love them. Davi does too. And they're not so easy to spot. I think this one might come back. Let's just be patient. Patience is the #1 skill out here in the bush. Oh, you've got another one. Davi, you're on fire. Why do I love dragonflies? Well, they are absolutely fierce. They are incredible. I don't think they get enough recognition for what they are. Now, they belong to a group called Odonata, which means the toothed ones, because they do have teeth, essentially. They have mandibles, as all insects do, and the mandibles are very, very sharp, just like little teeth, and they're predators. They're fierce predators. Now, you wouldn't think it, but all insects actually have 6 legs. If you don't have 6 legs, then you're not an insect. You're probably a spider or a scorpion or a tick or something belonging to the arachnid group. Now you can see this little dragonfly's legs are at the front end of the body. So they're not designed for walking. He's a flyer. He ain't a walker. If he wanted to walk, then the legs would have to go right down to the rear end of the body. So they're right at the front, and they create a sort of basket effect. And therefore they're able to catch their prey mid-air. They are that skilled at hunting that they're actually able to swoop down on the prey from the air to catch them. And they can utilize their legs. They bring all the legs together, all 6 of them, and it forms a little basket, like a shopping basket. And they just scoop up the prey. The males can also scoop up the ladies this way too. Dragonflies are amazing, but they're also quite naughty. Sometimes the males just pull the ladies out the air without giving her any choice to mate with her. Wow, well done, Davi. I've been looking for a dragonfly for the past 10 minutes. And of course, Davi managed to find one. Now, the American monarchs have the reputation for being the sort of, well, having the longest migration of any insect. But it's actually been proven by a friend of mine, Dr. Charles Anderson, that it's not, or it can't hold that title any longer, because dragonflies do. And it's a very specific dragonfly that actually makes a migration during monsoon season. Has it disappeared, Davi? I know you can find it again. And it moves from southern India all the way across the ocean, stops off in Maldives to have a little break, probably get some fresh water, I would imagine, although there's very little of that in Maldives, and it ends in South Africa. So it makes a round trip of maximum 18,000 kilometers. And yes, it's not one individual that does that. It takes 4 different generations, the same as the American monarch. So the individual that leaves southern India will not be the individual that A, arrives in Maldives halfway through, or B, arrives in southern Africa. 4 different generations. It does utilize the wind to assist in its flight, but for a tiny insect, I think that is really, really incredible to do that massive, massive long migration. Oh, is that a damselfly in the background? Nice one, Davi. One more time with that name, Natalie. Ivor, you're from Ireland. I'm not very good at the Irish accent, but I'll give it a go. Top of the morning to you, Ivor. Very good to hear from you. I love to hear from everyone in all the different countries that are watching today. And of course, you're my neighbour, technically, when I am back home. Dragonflies are predators, and that means that they hunt. So they hunt other insects. So they'll catch flies, they'll catch mosquitoes, they'll catch all sorts of aquatic insects that are sitting on the water. So they're carnivores. Just essentially like lions and leopards, but of the insect world. And they're just very, very good at hunting. Now, believe it or not, you're all going to be shocked about this. This is the weird and wacky, wonderful life of a dragonfly. In their juvenile phase, which is called a nymph, the nymph means juvenile, they're actually aquatic insects. And they can't fly, they swim, they live in the water. So the juvenile phase is completely different from the adult phase, but they're also carnivores when they're nymphs, and they actually eat tadpoles, mosquitoes, and small little fish that are in the water. Now, when they are aquatic in their nymph phase, they actually breathe through their bottom. Yes, bizarre, I know, but they're called anus breathers, and that is how they survive life in the water. They use their bottom to breathe. And there's a special respiratory spiracle, it's called, and it pulls in oxygen from the water. And although it sounds very, very bizarre, it's absolutely amazing that it then makes that transformation, gets rid of the sort of gills and respiratory spiracle to transform into the dragonfly that you are seeing right now. And Davi is doing a great job of filming. Then they breathe air and they fly. So they go from being sort of swimming, butts-breathing nymphs to flying, air-breathing adults. There you go. The weird and wonderful world of dragonflies. Hail H8, you're asking about the kingfisher. We've actually lost that kingfisher. I think he flew off, and unfortunately we're not going to be able to find it for you again. But no, he doesn't eat butterflies. We do have some butterflies over here who are having some sort of party. I think it's the spotted jokers. Spotted jokers are very, very common right now. They tend to be found in big groups, and I think we've got a lot of them over here. So no, the kingfishers, not all of them eat fish, believe it or not. The name is slightly misleading. But the pied kingfisher, the one we just saw, the black and white one, they do eat fish. So that's why he was hovering above the water body, so that he can swoop down as soon as he senses any movement and essentially go fishing. He's a great fisherman. But not all kingfishers eat fish, but they don't eat butterflies, I'm afraid. Hail? Butterflies don't live long. As soon as summer ends here, all the butterflies will disappear. what a great time we have had here at this pan. We are going to move and see if we still can find those elephants for you. And as we do that, it appears that James has another bird for you all.
Yeah, we've got a hornbill here, but unfortunately, there it goes. Oh, dear me, the patience required to live in the wilderness. Okay, let's see if we can catch up with it. There's a whole little group of them, and I think that's a juvenile that was foraging with its parent. Like going to the shops with your mum and dad, you know? Sitting in the trolley. There he is. He's in the back of that cluster leaf. 1 out of 5 visual. Can you see him? There, he's flying away now. Oh, how deeply frustrating. There is an interesting sound, though. Owen? Won't you point the microphone in front there? Would anyone like to hazard a guess as to what that is? You can't hear it. Can you hear it, Owen?
I can hear it in my headphones.
Is the ambient up? Well, that's very distressing that it cannot be heard in the final control. If you can hear it now, then that's spectacular, because it's not calling anymore. Let's go a little bit closer. Let's do that bird on the road first. There's a nice spur fowl there coming towards us. He's in full charge. Need to be careful. I might need to start the engine in reverse. Oh, this is terrifying. Swainson's spur fowl in full attack mode. Face red with anger. Now displaying his muscles. Oh. Terror. This spur fowl has got a serious problem. It's fascinating. What on earth is this thing doing? Now, it looks like it might attempt a little dust bath. I wonder if there's another one just off the road there. Oh, that's fascinating. While we watch him, I shall answer Diana's question about why it is that, her exact question was, why is bird poop white when everyone else's poop is brown? It isn't, Diana. It's actually brown, like everyone else's is. The difference is that a bird has got a cloaca, so it ain't got separate exits for urine and feces, and so they all come out together. And the white stuff that you can see, this guy is, I don't know what he's doing. He's now pecking at a leaf. He doesn't eat leaves, by the way. So what that white stuff is uric acid, as far as I remember. It's either urea or uric acid. Anyway, it's the same sort of stuff. And that's basically, the white stuff is the urine of the bird, and the brown stuff is the poop. And in actual fact, reptiles are exactly the same. They also produce similarly coloured poop. And if you see snake dung or tortoise dung, it's a brown sausage with a little white tip on the end. Well, chicken tenders, this is a good question that you ask, isn't it? Excellent question. I'm sure it's been playing on everyone's mind. Everyone's mind. Are birds living creatures or government drones sent to spy on us? Well, you know, who can tell? Who can tell? Certainly this one looks like a drone that's malfunctioning. We had a drone once here. We used it extensively until David Eastaugh, who's on the other vehicle on camera, crashed it at the dam we were at the other day. In fact, less than an hour ago. It was a sad day. You can ask him about that. What an astonishing Swainson spurfowl. Anyway, the noise I could hear up ahead, which I don't know if you heard or not, was a crested locust, or rain locust. And they make a very loud clicking sound that sounds almost like, you remember, I don't know if you ever did this as a kid, or if you kids still do this, when you ride your bicycle and you put a playing card in the spokes to make it sound like it's got an engine. Did anybody else do that, or was it just me? That's what it sounds like. The spurfowl is back and gone again. Let's just see if we can get another view of him. Yeah, no, there he is. He's on the road again. You see him there, Owen? Now, those of you who are interested in birds might be wondering what the difference between this bird and a red-necked franklin is. And they look almost identical, but the red-necked franklin has red feet. Why it's not called a red-legged or red-footed franklin, or spurfowl as anyone's guess. Good. Oh my lordy, we have a stowaway, Owen. It is a disgusting thing, and it is more dangerous than the hippopotamus too. In the same way that the mosquito is more dangerous than the hippopotamus, this too is more dangerous than the hippopotamus, but I have fearlessly picked it up for your edification and entertainment. Such is the commitment I have to the cause. This is a rhino tick. Is it not disgusting? That's a trick question. Of course it's not disgusting. It has a right to life, just like any other creature out here. It has occupied a niche that was unoccupied, and so it forms an integral part of the ecology of this area. And despite my fervent desire to pull its head off and throw it back into the bush, I'm not going to do so because, well, that would be mean. Do you want it, Owen? You want to take it home and keep it in a matchbox? No?
Yes.
Oh. Owen doesn't want to take it home, so I shall put it back in the bush and you're going to go back to Lauren. There's a painted lady. See the butterfly there? That's it.
Ticks are fascinating animals, aren't they? I'm actually quite, well, yeah, fascinated by them. A lot of them are blind, and they just wait on the ends of blades of grass, questing with their forearms, just waiting for the host to walk by. Where are you? Where are you? Hello. We do have a bird. I'm just going to try and get as close as possible. Davi, how's this? This is one of the favorites, I would say, of the birds out here. The lilac-breasted roller, also known as the LBR. That's its gang name, the street name, LBR. Has 7 different bright colors on it, from turquoise to purple, well, lilac, sorry. It's all in the name, to blue, to a brownie color, black. An incredible bird, but must say one of the ugliest calls I'm really not a fan of the call of the LBR. And normally they perch just on branches like it's doing right now, looking for insects. Delicious, yummy insects that are walking or running on the ground below. We didn't see any European rollers this year, everyone, which was very sad. They were supposed to arrive for summer and they didn't. Dia? You're... Diaz. We think. We still don't know. I hope it's either Dia or Diaz. You're asking, how often do we do safaris like this one? Well, believe it or not, we go live twice a day. We go live for sunrise from 6 a.m. till 9 a.m. Central African time. I'm not entirely sure if I can convert that into every single other country's time zone. If you do let us know where you're from, we can give you the times, and we go live for sunset, which is 3:30 p.m. till 6:30 p.m. Central African time. And it's completely live. You will see lots of things go wrong. You will also see lots of things go right, but, well, you know, a lot of things go wrong. There's no editor. There's no one to cut or chop or change. What happens, happens. So yes, you must tune in more often. We have the most magical moments out here, and we have a lot of fun. You can ask us anything within reason. So twice a day we go live. The only time we may not is if the weather is absolutely torrential. We do go out in rain. We try our very hardest to always be live, but if it's absolutely torrential, then of course we do not. Now, quick update. We heard rumours there could be a leopard near this area. Now, it's so difficult. I can't believe we haven't seen a leopard in almost 2 weeks now. That's really unusual for this area, by the way. Normally we have leopards every single day. It's because the grass is long and there's not many people out. They're not moving around this area. We're not picking up on signs of them. But there's a rumour. So I just want to check really, really carefully around here. We may get lucky. We may not. Now, I believe we have the chosen question for Davi. Let me hear it, Natalie, and we are going to bring Davi in front of the camera for you all. You are going to get to see the man who doesn't like to be in front of the camera. Oh, Natalie, you sound so different. Oh, Big Kev. Big Kev. I do know you, Big Kev, and that is a great question. That has to be the best question. All right, Davi. He's going to be shy. We are going to sit on the bonnet. It's always a challenge to get up on this bonnet. I'm a small human, but I can do it. Okay, Davi, you're going to sit next to me. Are you feeling nervous?
So nervous.
Big Kev, that was a fantastic question. I'm not going to answer it because it wasn't addressed to me. But we are in lockdown situation here. So things are very different and we're making the most of it. But what it does mean is that we're cooking for one another. So we are all the chefs for each other. And the cameramen are working back to back. They're working very solidly, so they don't have to cook, but they can judge everyone else's. So this is Davi.
Hi guys.
I think he's nervous. So who's the best cook?
Hello, Big Kev. That's a great question. It's a bit of a touchy subject, actually. And I have to be honest and say that it's Trishala.
Big Kev, this is very awkward.
And then Lauren over here. Yep. Trishala takes the cake. No lies.
I think you should go back behind the camera now. Big Kev, you don't know what you've started. No, you don't. I am a good cook, though. I'll never cook for Davi again. Hopefully Trishala will, or he's going to go hungry. So thank you, Big Kev. We're going to do that every time that Davi and I are on together. We're going to do a question for the cameraman. So you can actually get to see who our cameramen are. Because normally they're just silent or making faces at us or laughing at things we say on air. So there you go. Trishala is the best cook. I'm devastated. Davi's still chuckling. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but he's still laughing at his own joke. Anyway, now we do need to find some animals. Or the spotted kind. Leopards, where are you? We miss you dearly. And I don't quite know where on Cheetah Cut Line this rumour was supposed to come from, but it's supposed to be somewhere around here. Now, Louise or Natalie, just let me know you're with us. Ah, perfect. Okay. My neck's not making this very easy, I'm afraid. Now, this is a property we don't traverse. It's a different property, but of course we can drive up the boundary line, and we do have a lot of leopard activity in this property, so it's sometimes worth completely driving this line very slowly and just seeing if we can see any movement. You are allowed to view animals from the boundary line. You're just not allowed to cross that boundary, I'm afraid. But the animals do, of course they do. They are not quite aware of the boundaries as we are, and they will move from property to property. Is that a tree stump up there, or? It is a tree. This stump gets me every single time. Oh, it's a vehicle. That's not a stump. Ah, I think I need to get my eyes checked, everyone. It's a vehicle. But thank you for checking, Davi. Okay, I'm going to check this boundary line very thoroughly for you all, and Davi and I are probably about to have a domestic, and as we do that, we're going to send you back across the James.
There's another butterfly there while we wait to see if I can hear those elephants again. It's probably behind that bush for you, Owen. We just heard some elephants. Can you see it? Looks like a very faded one of your joker friends. So we just heard the of an elephant. But they are not where I thought they were going to be. Well, Mayor, that's a good question that a lot of people ask. We know where we are because we are familiar with the area. We've been in the area for a long time. It's just the same as that if I was to come to your neighborhood in Johannesburg, I would be very lost for a couple of weeks till I'd learned where everything was. And so it's exactly the same here. And although it all looks rather similar as we're driving along to you, to me it doesn't, because I've been here a long time, and so this tree, I know that tree, and so if I come out of an area and I see that tree, I know which road I'm on. It just starts to look like home, basically, and so you know where you are. Who knows where these elephants are, however? It's a very thick part of the reserve, but I shall try and hunt them down to the best of my ability. Surely we can't go a full drive without elephants. It would really not be in keeping with current form. Hello, Peyton in PE, Port Elizabeth. My parents live in Kenton-on-Sea, so they're locked down there. So they live quite close to you. Peyton, I have been a ranger on and off for 20 years. I say on and off because I spent 2 years in Cape Town working for a wildlife film company, and I also spent 5 years in Johannesburg teaching the guitar and trying to play the guitar for a living. And let me tell you something, Peyton. Let me give you a little piece of free advice here. If you want to get hungry in South Africa, If you really want to lose weight, become a professional musician. A very fast way to get thin quickly. And mercifully, I came back to the bush. There's a squirrel. Just circle this block and see if these elephants don't pop out. Otherwise, we may well go back towards the waterhole that we started at, because they could be heading there. That's what Owen thinks they're doing. The light is now starting to soften, as you can see. And that's because the day is nearly done, yet again. Hello Jenna, we don't have any packs of wild dogs in Juma. Remember that Juma's 1,200 hectares, so that's 1,200 hectares. The average wild dog territory, or not territory, home range in this area is 45,000 hectares. And so while we might have wild dogs coming onto Juma now and again, you know, they seldom live here for very long unless they have a den here, and then they go off again. So we'll have 2 or 3 different packs that will come and visit Juma every so often, and then they go off again. And that's because their areas are so huge. So in Ngala, where we've been visiting over the last little while, I'm not sure, I think we've probably given up on Ngala for this afternoon, but I'm not sure, is 14,000 hectares, and even that isn't big enough for one pack of dogs. And so not even they can say, we have a pack of dogs living here. They'll get lots of dogs coming through the area, but they won't always be there. That's a good question. 45,000 hectares, 450 square kilometers in this part of the world is the average home range size of a pack of wild dogs. And it'll get even bigger than that in other areas where prey is less dense. You'll find wild dogs with territories of up to 1,000 square kilometers, so 100,000 hectares. That's a lot of hectares. That was the pearl-spotted owl. Now, what I'm going to do, and I don't mind doing this because I'm doing it with my own whistle, I'm going to try and attract him to a position where we can see him. I'll park here so that Owen might be able to get the camera up into that tree. Oh, there he is, I can see him. Can you see him, Owen? He's on the end of the tree. You got him? Basically the branch, you got him. See if I can make him call again. See how he's looking at me with absolute disgust on his face. You can't got it. You've not got him.
I know exactly where he is with my eyes. Just got him in the camera.
Sorry, everyone. We'll get him now. Got him? Okay, there he is. See how disgusted he is. Now, sometimes you can make them call back at you when you whistle accurately enough. Now, this little owl is about 8 inches tall, and they are just the most spectacular little creatures, vicious looking. I missed the name of the last question, but it's how many owl species do we get here? Well, let me go through them. We get the pearl-spotted owl, we get the barred owl, we get the white-faced scops owl, we get the scops owl, we get the giant eagle owl, or the Verreaux's eagle owl, we get the spotted eagle owl, we get the barn owl, and potentially, but very unlikely, the grass owl. So 7 owl species, 8 if you count the grass owl. I think that's all. He's gorgeous. I always am amused by them because they look so vicious and they look so angry. A little bit like that. Is he gone? A little bit like the chicken hawk from those cartoons. I can't see where he went now. I turned around for a second and he disappeared. Cool. Well, that was nice. That was a really nice surprise. The pearl-spotted owlet. Let us carry on our merry way. And to figure out where these elephants were. Mick, the pearl-spotted owlet is often awake during the day. I wouldn't go so far as to describe them as fully diurnal, but they are often awake during the day. There are some nyalas. Unfortunately, the elephants have decided that this is not a road that we should travel. There goes the nyala. And another one. Gone. Everything is just a little bit skitty when the vegetation is so very thick. There we are. A beautiful russet-coloured nyala cow. Now these are my favourite antelope. I think they're the best looking antelope that we get out here. But that's just me. Hosea, no, there are no hartebeest here at Djuma Game Reserve. There are hartebeest up in the Kalahari. We saw some there. I'm trying to think where else there are. There's a species of hartebeest in the Masai Mara. And, I mean, in theory, in the low veld of South Africa, you can find the Liechtenstein's hartebeest, but I've never seen one here. So they'd be very rare, but possibly found up in the north of this particular area. That's a nice question. They're the most strange-looking antelope. They seem to have been designed for dressage. But unfortunately we don't find them here. Lauren remains on her search for leopard, but I'm pretty sure she'd take elephant or anything else right now.
I am still searching for my leopard, not very successfully. I just want to do this road carefully, because apparently it was a leopardess called Luna. Now, not everyone will know who Luna is, but she's also very new to us as well, and I've never had the pleasure of meeting her. The unfortunate thing is she's shy. She's as a leopard should be, I guess. Leopards are generally shy and elusive. We are just very lucky here that we have leopards that seem to love the camera. Really love the camera. But that's not the norm. The leopards here are very habituated, and I know many of you who are jumping on board haven't seen them in Juma yet. I promise you we have them. It's just summer. It's the height of summer. Things are slowly going to start to change. All the vegetation is going to recede, the grass is going to die, everything's going to be flat, and you'll be able to see for miles. And then we can find leopards just like that. So it was Luna, apparently, that was seen this morning on this road at the top, so I'm heading there now. And once we have checked the area, we will, of course, go in search of other animals for you. But it's always just worth paying attention. If we could get lucky today, that would absolutely make my day. I have not seen a leopard since Chingana on Arathusa, and I miss them. I miss them terribly. But don't worry, we will find one again. We just want to look really carefully. Davi's looking at one side, I'm looking at the other side. The side that's easiest on my neck. To see if you can see any movement, spots, tails, flickers. But with a day like today, an animal that's covered in hair is going to be flat on the grass in the shade, that's for sure. Let's just take a little look down here. Now, a few other vehicles are also looking for her. They want to see her. So the more eyes you have on the mission, the better. Now, this area is a very interesting area of the reserve. We call it the fire break, and it's not as random as you would think. It actually is a fire break. Fire is a tool that's used in conservation management or conservation practices. And what I'm going to show you right now, I think it's really interesting, is the boundary line. This is a northern cut line. You've probably seen us drive it many times. It's a Buffelshoek cut line, we call it, because it's right at the top. So it separates Juma, which is on the, well, my left, to Buffelshoek, that is on my right. So we cannot cross it. But essentially, you don't want fire to cross it either. Now, because of the African sun, the African heat, in winter, the grass gets very, very dry. Right now, it's... Oh, hello! Oh, hello. Okay. Someone's calling me. Bear with me. Standing by. Can you repeat, sorry? I'm currently at the Junction Cheetah cut line with Buffelshoek cut line. We've got a hyena. I haven't decided at the moment. What's your plan? Ah, sure. Go ahead. Enjoy. Who are you? This hyena's very, very far away, walking along the northern cut line. Look at that. Stunning, Davi. Well spotted. I wonder who it is. I'm going to let them get a little bit closer. Can see all the dust coming up under his feet. This is so cool. So yes, just to finish what I was saying, you don't want fire to spread. So let's just say, for example, a fire started in a very, very dry season and it spread through all the dry grasses. And okay, sorry, I was just listening to another update. There's all of a sudden people talking on the radio. Now, by having a fire break, which is an area that's purposely burned, they actually set fire to it, but it's controlled fire. What it does is it kills all the vegetation in that area, and it will stop natural fire spreading from one reserve to the other. So, of course, this hyena has given us a catwalk. Like a supermodel walking down the cut line. But you can see how thick the vegetation is on either side. So fire can spread by wind, and therefore it would sort of head straight into another property and spread really, really fast. So by having a fire break, an area where there was actually fire controlled through an appropriate practice by conservation management, the area is dead and it will halt natural fires. I hope that makes sense. So a natural fire break, or a sort of fire break that we have on every single property going around every single boundary line, is actually fundamental to stop spreading fires. Hello, hyena. Oh no, don't even think about it. I want to see who you are. Don't even think about it. If any of you manage to get an ID on that hyena, let us know. Let's see if we can find them. I absolutely love hyenas, everyone. I'm sure. Ah. Hi, are you going to take us to the leopard? That would be lovely. Fred, hyenas actually have 14 different vocalization, and giggling is just one of them. And it's not a giggle, as humans would have it. They're not laughing. They're not finding anything funny. Let's try and get an ID, Davi. Perfect ears. Smelling. Look, smelling. He's trying to smell a leopard. Do you know, I might follow this hyena for a little while. There has been... Look at him smelling. They follow their nose. They don't think about where they're going. They have no route. They follow their nose. And because there was a leopard in this area this morning, I think I'm maybe going to follow him. Just for a little while. If any of you have that ID, hashtag WildEarth, let me know. So yes, giggling is just a noise that is used because to humans it sounds like giggling, but actually they're not giggling, they're not laughing, nothing's funny. They tend to do the giggling vocalization when they're nervous. Maybe when a more dominant individual is being aggressive, or where they don't know whether to go in for the food or not because there's more dominant hyenas around, or they're unsure. That's when they make that giggle sound, but it's not actually laughter, essentially. It just sounds like a very high-pitched giggle. It's utterly bizarre. Now, I have found leopards in the past from following hyenas. We're going to keep enough distance. We're not going to scare this individual, although, to be honest, hyenas don't get scared that much. And see if he or she, I think it's a male. Just judging by the size, it's very difficult to sex hyenas. But judging by the size, I wonder if it's a male. It looks skinny and small. Females are much sturdier, shall we say? You can see it tracks. And Christine, lovely to hear from you. You're asking about other hyena clans. The sort of main other, there will be absolutely many, but the main one that we actually know about is the Elephant Plains clan. And they're sort of further south. They're the main enemies of the Juma clan, if you like. We just got the side eye there. And that's the only other sort of clan that we know most about. The Juma clan, which is our clan, and the Elephant Plains clan. Now, Heart, one of our females, actually has a brother called Soul. And Soul dispersed. So he left the Juma clan, which he was born into, and naturally, at around 2 years old, he dispersed and went into the Elephant Plains clan. So you can still see Soul, but he's definitely not a Juma clanner anymore. He dispersed. This is so lovely. I think James has found some elephants for you all.
Thankfully, yes. Finally, we've got the elephants. Lauren and I seem to have been hearing them all over the place, and only now have we managed to find them. And I just want to say, I think Lauren's plan of following that hyena is an excellent one, because I think that a hyena moving at this time of the day could easily be heading for something smelling and dead. So there are two groups of elephants here. This isn't obviously the best view. I'll move when they move out of this particular area. There's a herd, I think, off to the left. And then this little group of bulls here on the right. And it wouldn't be surprising to me to find that this was the same group that we'd followed 2 mornings ago, 3 mornings ago, and then yesterday, and then Trishala had in the afternoon, where the mating took place. There's a big fella. Marvellous. They've been throwing mud all over themselves. That chap is going to get himself a thorn where he doesn't want it if he's not careful. I've always found that quite astonishing and toe curling to think about. Hello, Ross, in Port Elizabeth. You can tell an elephant's in must from a few things, but mainly it's when they are dribbling from their penises, basically. They dribble urine, and the insides of their legs are normally very wet, and it smells very distinctive. It smells like rotting leather mixed with honey. It's not an entirely unpleasant smell if you're not too close to it, but otherwise it's quite strong and pungent. And then they might also be secreting from the glands between the eyes and the ears, and those glands indicate stress, and must is a stressful time for them, and so they can also secrete from those glands. But it's mainly what they call green penis syndrome, which is when they dribble that very strong smelling urine type stuff. And apparently they can lose up to 100 litres a day in moisture, so they have to drink extra when they're in must. So what you're seeing there doesn't indicate must necessarily. He might be in must, but I don't think he is. Barry, you'd hear many different answers for that question. I think it depends on the individual. Barry, I've been approached by must bull elephants and sat still and held my ground and not said anything, and the bull just turns around and goes away. I've had one particular bull who wasn't in must, and he kept coming towards us, and every time I moved away he came faster until I stopped the car and reversed at him, and then he moved away. So that was one particular instance. I don't think necessarily, so no is the answer. There's no blanket response that an elephant will have if you drive away from it. I do feel that we as human beings are far too confrontational when we're in the bush, and that this notion that we need to stand our ground and show animals who's boss is A, dangerous, and B, not realistic. If an elephant wants to turn your car over, your best bet is to just get out of its way, not worry about whether or not you're going to teach it a bad habit. And also, why do you want to show an elephant who's boss? The elephant is boss, and so you should just move away. So if an elephant indicates to you that it is displeased with your presence, your best course of action is to leave your ego behind and just move away, because by increasing the distance, you immediately decrease the conflict. There are situations where you can find yourself unable to move back. So a situation like this that we're in, for example, and I'm only in this position because I've watched this elephant carefully, and I don't think at this stage that he is uncomfortable with our presence. Some might say he's very comfortable with it. But you can find yourself in a situation where moving could be more dangerous. So if I had a vehicle full of guests, for example, and I couldn't see behind me, so there's a big, row of seats, and an elephant came up to the front, to reverse backwards at high speed could be more dangerous than trying to stand your ground and trying to make the elephant back off. But it's why when you start guiding, you're taught to never park in an elephant sighting unless you have a forward escape route. Then when you get a bit more experienced, you start to learn a bit more about elephants, and you can make exceptions to that rule. Now, the great danger here in the Sabi Sands is complacency. Because the elephants are so used to people here, what tends to happen is that people get complacent about them and they just drive up, especially new guides, drive up with their guests, park next to the elephant, and then one day they get a big shock when a big bull or a cow turns around and says, "That's too close, buddy," and gives them what for. And that can be a very, very unpleasant experience. And I actually know a guide who was hugely, hugely sensitive, massively experienced guide, and, you know, just a really wonderful ambassador for nature and for guiding. So, you know, and she had no ego at all. And she was watching a lion pride eating a kill one day, and an elephant herd came out of the bush at her and turned the car over into the lions. Thankfully, no one was crushed by the car, but she and her tracker then had to prevail upon the lions to please move off, and then they had to deal with the elephant. And it was all in the dark, I seem to remember. There's a cow, so she's been flirting with the bulls over here. Here we go, Owen. Here comes the younger bull towards us. This is just magic. So he's a youngish bull. If that big floppy-eared bull was this close, I would be thinking about extricating myself. Look at it. Isn't that wonderful? Look at him smelling us. Hi. I feel like I could take a picture of you, but you're probably a bit close. It's for moments like that all the driving around, looking at nothing but bits of grass and one or two insects, become entirely worth it. Ooh, here we go, Owen. Here's another big chap. He's the same chap. He's the same chap who's going to get a thorn where he doesn't want it. Put it away. Either that or he's going to stand on it. All right, well, that was wonderful. Let's go around the corner here. What a marvelous experience, eh? Here's one more. So this is an interesting situation, and that's a much older bull. And when he came through the bush, my initial reaction was, put your hand on the key and just make sure. And then you get to learn their behavior. Now, he's definitely paying attention to us. He's listening to my voice, and I'm watching him carefully. But he didn't really commit to being too interested in us. He's now doing a bit more committing to being interested in us. But because I have a forward escape route, I'm not too worried at this stage. So if I move away now, by starting the car, I could escalate the situation. So I'm going to just sit for a while and see if he moves off. Right there. So we're just going to sit quietly and wait. And the other thing I could do by starting the engine is precipitate some kind of conflict. So he might get a fright and take exception, but most likely what he'd do is get a fright and move away. But he's definitely watching us. He's listening to us. He's talking to us now. So if he shakes his head now, I will take that as an order from him to move along, in which case I will do that. At the moment, however, he's just kind of watching us and feeding quietly. Now, Owen, if I I say hold on, you just hold on as we move, okay? Don't want to leave you behind under this quarry bush if we have to leave. He's just frozen because there's a lot of grumbling and groaning from the other elephants. So he's listening to them now. I don't know if you saw that, but it became quite clear quite early on as he lifted his ears up there that he wasn't necessarily trying to intimidate us. And I know that because although he lifted his head up, so I'll show you what he did. He stood behind us and he lifted his head up like that, and then it just kind of went down a bit. It didn't stay up, and he didn't lift his nose up, which is what they do if they're alarmed or they are feeling a little bit angsty and they want you to go away. He lifted it a bit, opened his ears out, and then he just backed down slightly. And so I wasn't particularly worried about it. But this is a lesson for anybody in South Africa or anybody who self-drives to our national parks. If you're in doubt, don't try and stand your ground, move away. Because by increasing the distance between you and the animal, there can be no danger. Okay, there we are. That was magic. Lauren is still following her hyena, which I'm most impressed by because it's not easy following a hyena.
That's easy. I'm making it look easy. I don't even have my feet on the pedals. Look at this. We are in low range, which means the car drives itself. Well, probably not very well. I think I do need to focus on the steering wheel, and now I'm stuck. There we go. But essentially, it's very, very easy when the hyena is walking on a road. I'm giving it plenty of distance. I'm staying in low range. You should always be in low range around animals if you can, when you're in a 4x4 like this. And we're just letting the car pull itself, so it's not got that sort of noisy acceleration and deceleration. The behavior we are witnessing here, Davi and I are absolutely fascinated by this individual. He keeps crossing left into Torchwood and sniffing, putting his head in the air and trying to take in any scent. He knows we're here. Look, the wind's blowing. Look, he's just waiting to smell carcass or leopard. Gugu, I believe it's very, very far. I believe it's miles and miles. I think over 7 kilometers at least that's been scientifically proven for leopards. They follow their nose. So essentially they don't follow any direction, and that's what's been fascinating watching this one. So what I was trying to say is that, oh, he's picking up speed now. He weaves. So he's weaving into one property, having a sniff, and then weaving into the other. And essentially, he doesn't know that he's weaving into different properties. But what I'm trying to say is that he's changing his direction to pick up any scent. Now, they are scavengers, but they're great scavengers. They deserve credit for it, not sort of negative thoughts or connotations. So he's just weaving across the road smell, then weaving back again. And it's easier for him to walk on the road. And why is that? Because it's difficult to walk in the long grass these days. It's so tall, they use more energy walking through the long grass in the thicket. They have to watch where they're standing, they have to move through the vegetation than it is to walk on the road. It's easy. And literally, he's just trying. This is how they find kills. This is how they find leopards. It's amazing. It's been so incredible watching this hyena like this. Sometimes, well, a lot of the time we just watch Ribbon sleeping, which is beautiful, but, you know, she's sleeping. Sometimes in quite sultry poses that Ribbon gets herself into, but this is interesting to actually watch the behavior. And watching an animal's behavior is how you learn. And hyenas just follow their nose. They do hunt. Please don't get me wrong. They do hunt. They do tend to hunt more in sort of open areas like the Masai Mara, where the clans are bigger and the prey populations and the prey species, the variety is different up in the Masai Mara. But here they do hunt. But look, he's going to do it again. He's going to cross in, have a little sniff. And we may find nothing, but you know, we may find something. The incredible thing is we have actually found leopards before from just following a hyena. Leopards and hyena are very used to one another. Very, very used to one another. They barely even react other than maybe a snarl or a growl. And the hyenas are not scared of leopards, they're really not. Look, sniffing, wandering, zigzagging, weaving. Aiden, you're 9 and you're living in Johannesburg, not too far away from us. You must come and visit the bush one day. Look at him sniffing. They are very fast runners. It's bizarre though. They have a very strange shaped body, as you may have noticed, Aiden. This hyena's hips sort of slope down at the back, so their whole entire spine slopes down. They have very small back legs, but they have large forelegs and a large neck. I wish I had a hyena neck today. Sadly, I have a stiff neck today. And this is because they use the power at the front. And it's called an energy efficient gait. So the way they move and the way they run is called galloping. And because their body does slope down, it makes it very energy efficient for them. But when hyenas want to run fast, they can. Because they also hunt by coursing, just like wild dogs. By running and running and running and outrunning their prey. Not like lions and leopards. Now I just want to give it one more minute here. Just in case this little one pops out. Funny feeling he might not, I'm afraid. But you never know. I do think it's definitely worth... Oh, Michael, you said you were not able to identify this individual yet. That's interesting, Michael. I didn't recognize it, but to be honest, I am a little bit out of the loop with the males. Could potentially not be a Juma clanner. Okay, I think this one has disappeared into Torchwood. We can't cross, I'm afraid. But that was fascinating. So yes, hyenas hunt by coursing when they do hunt, which means they run cooperatively, members of the clan together. The bigger the clan, the better, and they will outrun their prey. And essentially, that's also what wild dogs do. So they need to be able to run. And although they look really funny when they run, they can actually run very fast when they want to. I'm just doing a last minute double check. Emma, you're 10 years old. You're also in Joburg and you're asking about brown hyena. No, we don't have them here, but I would love to see brown hyena. I really, really would. So on my wish list, there's 4 different species in the Hyenidae family. Spotted, like what we just had because it's got spots. Brown, striped and aardwolf. So they're the 4 different species in Hyenidae family. And we don't get brown hyenas. I think one has been seen before. Did you hear that story, Davi? But I definitely didn't see it. And it's definitely not a common sighting. They're very shy, they're difficult to spot. But there's a place in Namibia called the Skeleton Coast where you can have great sightings with brown hyenas. Davi and I were actually going to go there one day because they hunt the seals that come out of the ocean. So you can actually get a hotel on the beach on the coast and watch the brown hyenas coming in to hunt the seals. Incredible. It's on my bucket list. But no, Emma, we don't have brown hyenas here, I'm afraid. Okay, we're now heading into Juma. We're leaving the boundary line. The weather's changing. Wind's picked up. Not a great thing for us. I'm in shorts and t-shirts, but it's a great thing for the predators. I'm starting to dream about leopards now. That's how much I'm desperate to see them. I'm dreaming about them. Is Natalie talking? Okay, I think I have lost comms. But apparently I do have to send you across to James, who's made it to the hyena den.
We've got to the hyena den. Here we are at the hyena den. And, well, it's pretty standard issue fare at the moment. At least we have an ear to look at. More than an ear, I mean. And what I suspect is that she is going to try and feed them now. The fact that she isn't in the den means that she has either fed them already, they've had their evening feed, or she's about to do so. Now normally you want to be at the den pretty much at sunset. Now we weren't at the den at sunset because those magnificent elephants were giving us such a display. And so, well, I guess we'll have to see. We'll sit for a few minutes. In fact, we'll sit probably for about half an hour and see if anything happens here. For those of you wondering where on earth Ngala and beyond Ngala is today, there's some power issue with not them, but with the way that we get the signal from there to here. Now, I mean, that is well beyond my tiny brain to understand, but that's why we haven't seen them today. We will keep trying, but most likely we'll only have them again tomorrow, hopefully. So fear not, it's not that we have forsaken and beyond Ngala or anything like that. And here you can hear the wind coming in. And the wind is coming in because there is a front moving in. Now, andBeyond, somebody at andBeyond, presumably, as opposed to the entire company, is wishing Frank Esterhazen a happy 60th birthday. Frank, I don't know who you are, but it's a big day for you, and I hope it's a good one. I hope that your lockdown birthday has been filled with treats, although I suspect you probably had to make them yourself. You know, the other thing this beastly virus has created is a situation where many celebrations, like I've no doubt Frank was going to have for his 60th birthday, have had to be cancelled. And the worst is these, or the saddest, are these pictures of people having sort of private wedding ceremonies on Skype or something like that because they can't, their weddings have been cancelled. Oh, it must be a deeply difficult thing to deal with. My own wedding was just exactly 1 month ago, and 2 weeks after it, this travel ban happened and the lockdown was instigated, and so I was very lucky, as was my dear wife, of course. She's doubly lucky. We had a wedding and she got me. Anyway, we'll wait and see what happens here for a little while. I believe that there are now 11,300 people watching this safari, which is just great. Thank you to every single one of you for being here with us. Thank you for your questions and your comments, because really, a live safari is utterly pointless without a live interacting audience. So thank you all very much for being part of what I think has been a week's worth of very special broadcasts to a brand new audience of people who've joined us. And as I say every night, I hope that you're all getting some healing from the wilderness, which is, of course, in my opinion, the ultimate healer of human nature. And if there are any of you watching and you are infected by this virus, I wish you all the very, very best, and I'm sure everyone else watching the stream does as well. All the strength you need to fight it. Even Ribbon's agreeing. She looks a bit depressed by the subject, so I don't think we'll talk about it anymore. Mr. Gielli, two things about your question. She doesn't have pups, she has cubs. That's just an English convention, basically. I suppose it indicates her closer proximity to cats than it does to dogs. She will struggle to look after more than two, and in fact, it's very, very, very unusual for her to have more than two. So the normal litter size for hyenas is 2. It's sometimes 1, very, very seldom 3, but 2 is the standard. I'm just going to see if I can find a percentage for the number of triplets that they have. Hyenas have been extensively researched, and they're still being extensively researched. And if you're interested in hyenas, the Michigan State University has been running a project up in the Masai Mara for 20 years now, I think. And I guess you just Google Michigan State University Hyena Project and you'll find some amazing literature there on them. Let me see. Oh, while I'm sitting here, this morning I said that, yes, there were a few female was it this morning? I don't think it was this morning, some other time. There were a few female-dominated societies like hyenas, but that only hyenas had this strange, what do they call it, ambiguous genitalia. But apparently squirrel monkeys have an enlarged clitoris, but they don't give birth through it like these chaps do. And spider monkeys the same. So, yeah, no, I wasn't entirely wrong. Anyway, let me just keep reading and see if it doesn't tell us. This is an extremely sophisticated question from Charlotte, aged 8 in Cape Town. Can hyenas change their sexual orientation? Do you mean their sexual orientation, or do you mean their sex, their gender? They cannot change their gender, so Ribbon will be a female until the day she dies. And so, no, she can't ever be a male, and so no, none of the males can ever be female. So they're not like some fish, which can absolutely change gender. They cannot change gender. So I'm going to assume that's what the question was. In terms of sexual orientation, that's a long and fascinating discussion, especially in the animal world, with latest research, but I won't go into that now. I can still hear those elephants. Here we go. The number of young in a litter is typically 1 or 2, exceptionally 3. So yes, I was correct. I'm just trying to see if there's a percentage of triplets. There doesn't seem to be. This wind is definitely bringing in a rather unpleasant cold front. Hello Thea, aged 5, and Rue, aged 2. Apparently you're my biggest fans. Well, especially to Rue, aged 2. I'll be astounded if you remember me come next year, but thank you very much for that. You want to know what the hyena's closest relative is. The hyena's closest relative is another hyena. So there are 4 types of hyena, and this one's closest relative is probably the brown hyena. So this is a spotted hyena, and I suspect its closest relative is the brown hyena. Then there's also the striped hyena and the aardwolf, or earth wolf. Come on, my dear, surely it's time to feed your babies. They're hungry, I can tell. This hyena sleeps more than any other hyena I've ever seen. Hello, Robin, aged 9. Indeed, hyenas are always black when they're born. They are never any other colour, and it'll take a couple of months before they eventually start to get some spots. I always forget exactly how long that is. That's a sweet little look she's giving us. Yes, but open your eyes, Ribbon, and bring your babies out. You know you want to. No, Jason A. Hyenas most certainly do not have one mate for life. In fact, I suspect it's quite seldom that they even mate with the same male twice. Okay, she's gone, slipped down into the den now, I think purposely. That might indicate that she's going to start feeding her babies. She'll mate with any of the clan males, and they don't even have to be. In fact, it's unlikely that they'll be a dominant member, because the least dominant ones are normally ones that have come in from other clans, and that helps spread or helps diversify the genetics of the clan if she mates with one of them. We'll sit here for probably another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll head out and see what else we can find. But for now, let's go across to Lauren and see what's going on there.
Oh, my rib robs. I'll need to pop in to see her tomorrow morning. I miss that girl when I don't see her also. Now, the hyena disappeared, of course, as you know, and we're just doing a last minute check of the central road. And we're going to head back into quarantine. Now, quarantine does happen to be right outside our camp, and I'm not heading there because I'm hungry. I am hungry, but we're heading there because quarantine's a very active area, especially when the weather is changing like this. I don't know if Davi can maybe give you a beautiful view of the skyline. The sun's just starting to set. We don't really have a sunset, but the clouds are forming, and the wind's really, really picked up. And what that means is that it's a lot cooler. It's getting darker quicker because there's cloud cover. And the wind is exactly what the predators love, because it, well, helps disguise them. The prey can't hear them coming. And very often, we actually got caught in a storm around Christmas, Davi and I. We went out for a night bumble, which we do as staff. Sometimes we do have fun. And we bumped into Tingana, our male leopard. We didn't know he was there. We didn't have him on tribe, of course. And he hunted for us. He hunted an impala. And it was the worst weather we'd had in so long. It was stormy. I think it was starting to rain. The wind was howling. And of course, he used that to his advantage. So weather like this can be really, really promising when it comes to predators, of course. If you're a prey species, well, it's not so great for you. But if you're a predator, it definitely is. Ia?
Yes.
Dia. I do not know why I cannot get that when Natalie says that. You're asking... You're... Diaz. Thank you. Natalie finally spells it for us. I got it. Diaz. Perfect. So you're asking what's the best season to do a safari to be. So in terms of photography, if you're a photographer, it is beautiful. If you manage to catch a leopard walking through the long grass, or even a buffalo looks good in the long grass. Summer is thriving. It's almost pulsating with the insects, the air, the birds, the sounds. and of course care to find the predators. I've noticed I'm not having much luck lately. It will all turn around. Keep watching. I know many of you are new. I promise you it's all going to kick off here one day. And so for photography and beauty, I would say summer. But winter for photography is really not great. It's barren. I'll try and show you some of my photos one day. You can see them on my Instagram. And the colours are just so monotonous and they all fade into one another. There's no sort of lush greens or bright colours of flowers. There's just nothing. It's all dry grass. Everything is dead. Everything crunchies under your feet. Apart from the evergreen trees and shrubbery, of course. But generally speaking, there's just no texture or topography to the landscape. It's all completely just flat. And the trees are mostly bare, and therefore you can see further. So we have a lot more luck with predators, also due to the fact that the predators are confined to specific water holes because there's no rain. And therefore all the other water holes, the dams and the pans and the puddles, all dry up. And all that's left is the pumped pans that are supplied with water by humans. And predators rely on this. So they're restricted in their movements to water holes, and that's why we find them so much easier in winter. So yes, that was a long explanation, but it really depends what you're looking for. If you really just want to see the animals and you don't care so much about the beauty or the insect life or the birds or photography, then winter. It's also chilly. It's cold. We come out here wrapped in scarves and gloves and hats and hold our coffees and hot water bottles, believe it or not. But again, it's just not as vibrant. Summer is so vibrant. You can almost close your eyes and feel life moving around you, from the snakes to the insects. And the elephant sightings in summer have been absolutely incredible. I have had the best elephant sightings of my life that Christmas period. So really, it depends what your goals are. But hopefully, if you are planning on doing a safari in the future, when we can all travel again, hopefully that helped you, yes? I feel it might be spotlight time soon. Kane, age 9, and Tora, age 8. You're asking how big is the game reserve? Our game reserve, Juma Game Reserve, which is almost rectangle in shape, if you like, is 1,200 hectares, I think. Is that right, Davi? Yes, that's right, 1,200 hectares. So it's really, really not that big, and we can sort of drive around it, but it's got all the sort of link roads and small roads and loop roads and game paths. Game paths are very important to pay attention to because these are the paths that the animals use. So it's not very big. We do loops all day long, and we do bump into each other all day long as well. But on a normal basis, we also traverse Chitwa, which is a gorgeous property on the south, but sadly we can't go there at the moment because no one's crossing boundaries due to what is happening with the world. But on a normal day-to-day basis, we also travel Chitwa, and that's a great area to see lots of animals as well. And that obviously extends our traverse area quite a bit. It's also not a big property, it's smaller than Juma, but it's got a huge dam, Chitwa Dam, and there's lots of life that happens around Chitwa Dam. I think I might have to put my lights on soon. Yes, that helps. Oh, wonderful. And my good old trusty spotlight, which is not so wonderful. I may opt not to use that right now, but we are heading back inwards. My goal is to be on quarantine as it gets darker. Okay, fingers crossed we get lucky with some animals as the wind is howling, and it appears that James is still sitting with Sleepy Ribbon.
Yes, we are with Sleepy Ribbon, but there's some activity on there, and we're going to give it a little while. At least she's an animal, she's moving, she's yawning, she's showing us her teeth. They are impressive teeth, must be said. But this wind is a harbinger of beastly weather tomorrow, and maybe her babies are thinking they'd rather stay cozy up down below than come out and play. You can't possibly still be yawning, Ribbon. You've been asleep for a week. No, interestingly, Matthew, hyenas are not endangered. I actually don't know what exactly their status is, but they're not endangered. They're probably threatened, which means that they are nearly endangered, you could say. But I don't think they are fully classified as endangered. And that's because, a bit like leopards, they're pretty good at living just about anywhere. And as long as they're not harassed by human beings, they can survive. Their problem with humans is, as with most animals, habitat loss. So the places where they like to live tend to be where humans like to live too. And also they are poached to a certain extent for their body parts, which are used in traditional medicine. But it does happen, but it's not a major threat to them, certainly not in this area anyway. So as long as we have protected areas, hyenas will remain relatively safe. And as far as I'm aware, there is no demand for their body parts outside of Africa. So there's no demand for their body parts in Vietnam or China, which of course is where the demand for rhino horn and pangolin comes from. And that's why those animals are so heavily poached. Elephant ivory as well. And now lion bones, likewise. She can hear an elephant. You can just hear an elephant going close-ish by. All right. We're going to... Okay, can you see it? Okay, go for it. Owen's just going to try and get this full moon tonight. I'm pretty sure it's full now. And I think it's a super moon. Looks a pretty normal moon to me, but, it's pretty impressive. Yeah. Jack, we do have an anti-poaching unit here. It's not WildEarth that looks after it. It's the Sabi Sand Game Reserve that runs and operates the anti-poaching unit. As far as I'm aware, it's fairly effective at what it does. I don't know when the last rhino was poached in the Sabi Sands, but certainly it seems to be an effective group of people. And we see them from time to time, walking around in their camouflage. It's not an easy job, that, and it used to be quite a fun job. The game ranger used to be the anti-poacher as well, and he used to just spend his days walking through the bush, either on horseback or on his own, and enjoying the scenes, camping out. It was a hard life, but it wasn't a necessarily particularly dangerous one from a human perspective, and that's all changed now. Now, of course, being an anti-poacher is a paramilitary job, performed often by people without military training, and so it makes it dangerous, and very brave people who are trying to save our rhinos and other wildlife from poachers. All right, Ribbon, I think it's time we left you yet again. Oh, Ava, age 10, and Corva, age 9. You want to know how old Ribbon is? We do actually know how old Ribbon is. It's just that my very small brain has forgotten, but if you give me 1 second, I'll tell you. You think she's 7? Owen reckons she's 7. Why do you reckon that, Owen? Did Lauren say that yesterday? Okay. Now, I'll just check for you. Ribbon info. Born in mid-2013, so she's almost 7, yeah. So she's 6 and a bit. And interestingly, we don't actually know who her parents were. Cool. Mid-2013 she was born, so yeah, just under 7 years ago. All right, we're going to pull out of here. Lauren's managed to get into a position where she could look at the moon, and you can see it too. We'll see you in the dark.
Look at this incredible view we have. Full moon, 99.7% according to my moon app. I believe supermoon is tomorrow, the 8th. And of course supermoon is when the moon appears very, very large in your visual field because of the position of the earth. And of course the ambient light that you will receive from that is incredible. And what this means, everyone, is I think tonight with the wind and the moon is going to be a very successful night for predators. Very. Hyenas, lions and leopards. Not that we have any on Juma at the moment, but still, look at that. I'm probably not going to sleep very well tonight either. I should have an apple juice. Look at that cloud coverage. Breathtaking. And I know many of you are stuck in your house right now, so we are bringing nature, the animals, and the moon to you. You probably could also look out your window and see the moon, but if you're in an area like the UK, you probably will not see the moon due to the cloud cover from the awful weather. Okay, wow. I've got a decision to make up here. There's a fork in the road. I either go left or I go right. Davi, what do you think?
Right.
You think right? Big decisions, everyone, big decisions. Let me just check behind me with my ridiculously painful neck to make sure no one's walking. Sometimes that happens. You go to reverse the car and you realize that there's an animal walking behind you. Okay, now it really is time to look for eye shine. Look for those reflective eyes. That's how we managed to find the bush babies the other night, if any of you remember. We had an incredible bush baby sighting. I think we found their den or their little nest. I think nest is the correct word. And I've got it marked. We're not anywhere near the area at the moment, but I promise you the next afternoon drive I am on, we will go there, wait for darkness to fall, and see if we can see them again. We've got to scrub here. We need to go into infrared to see this. Just bear with us. Your color, your picture is going to change from color to black and white now. I think it was a bit too fast. Never mind, I tried to do a piece of magic. A scrub here. The perfect item of prey for many predators. So Ibrahim, you are asking, does the ambient light from the full moon not also help the prey see the predators coming? Essentially, yes, a lot of the prey species, especially antelopes, can see in the dark. Maybe not as well as the predators can, but just because they're diurnal, which means daytime animals, they can see and in the dark. They do have better eyes than we do in darkness. So essentially, yes, but the predators have got the bigger advantage, especially on a night like this when it's windy. The predators do use the cover of darkness, and essentially you will have wild dogs and cheetahs, animals that are primarily not diurnal, hunting at night time also when it's full moon. So it helps everyone see better, and the prey know this, Ibrahim. So you will find that species like impala, wildebeest, even your Ngala will actually all huddle together in open clearance really, really tightly because they know on nights like that the predators are going to come. So yes, it does help the prey see better and it helps the predators see better. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword there. But normally, in my experience out here, the full moon predators are always successful. Oh, look at this cute little scrub here. It's actually difficult to get scrub hairs on screen sometimes. But this one is thoroughly enjoying a delicious grass. And I often get asked, what are baby scrub hairs? Oh, before I go down that route, it appears like Mr. Hendry has found the top of the crops, a chameleon.
Well, yes, we have found a chameleon, the flapper-necked chameleon. And in case you are a new viewer and you're thinking to yourself, my goodness, that James Henry fellow must have the eyes of the Hubble Space Telescope with infrared built in. I don't. They are, in fact, very easy to spot at night. And what's happened is that he's already changed colour from his slightly more fluorescent whitish green to matching the bush behind him. And so if I was to drive past now, oh shame, he's going to be seriously seasick in about half an hour. Whoa. Chap, I would suggest you go down to the base, don't climb up. You look like you're thinking about going up. That's a bad idea. Anyway, they're actually very easy to see because they are this kind of fluorescent white color when they go to sleep. And then as soon as they think they're being looked at, they turn the color of the bush they're on, or they just get darker. So I'm not shining fully on him. I'm afraid our infrared light is up the wazoo this evening, and so we just got a bit of wash of the white light on him, and then we'll leave him be. It's a favourite trick, of course, when you're on a new guide and you think you're rather wonderful with your Land Rover and your car key and your rifle, and when you spot a chameleon for the first time and the guests say, "Oh, James, how did you do that?" You think that you're just amazing. And then, of course, you slowly realize that you're not quite as amazing as you thought you were. A question about whether or not the animals get crazy during the full moon. No, I don't think so. That's interesting because it's a common question that we get. And the answer is no, not really, but behavior certainly changes because the light changes. So you will sometimes, in some areas, find cheetah hunting under the full moon. You will find wild dogs hunting under the full moon. You might find that normally nocturnal predators like lions will sleep for longer and not get up and go hunting until perhaps the moon has set. So it can change behavior. I don't know if it has any hormonal effects on the animals out here. I suppose it could, and therefore that would change behavior. I'm not sure that there's any metaphysical change in behavior for the animals out here as a result of the full moon. Lauren believes that it has an effect on humans, apparently. I don't think it has an effect on me, but perhaps I do wake up at 12 o'clock in the evening covered in fur and rush out and bite things and then wake up the next morning unaware as to what I've done. But I don't think that happens. I'm pretty sure my good wife would have told me about it by now, although we have only been married for exactly 1 month. Thank you for all the congratulations that are now flowing in. Marilena, chameleons curl their tails because their tails are prehensile. In other words, they are like hands. So they're like an extra hand, like a spider monkey's tail. It helps them to hold on to where they are. Sometimes they're not very accurate with it, but that's basically what it's for. Well, I'm going to leave this chap. I feel a bit bad shining it on him, especially if he's going to have a serious case of seasickness come the end of this evening. This is getting a bit disgusting, but I don't know what possessed or what brought this thought into my head, but I imagined a small pile of chameleon vomit underneath the tree. underneath the tree. That's not even funny. Sorry about that. I'm not sure why I find that amusing. I guess I'm just glad it's not me sitting on the tree, because I get seasick in a bath. Ooh, my favorite nocturnal animal from Random Network. I think a bush baby. I love little bush babies. I think they're fantastic. So I'm going to go with bush baby. Now, there are lots of semi-nocturnal animals that I possibly prefer a little bit more than a bush baby, such as leopards. I wouldn't consider them strictly nocturnal, though, so I'm going to exclude them from the list. Likewise, things like serval and caracal. But I do love bush babies. We can now go across to Lauren, and I'd like her to kindly explain to me in what way our human behavior changes by the light of the full moon.
I have no idea what James said there. Unfortunately, we're driving in the howling wind and my comms is not great. What is it you would like me to explain, Natalie? Oh, my sleeping issue. Mr. Henry wants to know about it. Well, the theory is, you can actually Google it, and the theory is that our body, well, let me start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. The moon has great power over bodies of water, especially the ocean. Now, the ocean's tides and the entire pattern, which then leads to sort of the pattern of currents. Sorry, I'm driving really badly tonight, Davi. I blame my neck. He's not impressed. Or maybe it's revenge. Yes, so the ocean is greatly controlled by the moon. And as some of you know, I used to work in Maldives, and our entire schedule, the patterns, the animal movements, what we would do would be greatly affected by the moon because of its power on the ocean. And our bodies are mainly made up of water, fluid, liquid, mainly made up of cells in water, essentially. And therefore, the theory is that because we are mainly made up of liquid, that the moon has also a great effect on us, a gravitational pull, if you like, just like it has on bodies of water, especially the ocean. So there's many, it's an ongoing argument, but there's many people that feel on the night of full moon, not because of the light, not because of the ambient light, they have blackout curtains or sleeping masks or all these sort of things to block out the light, that they feel they do not sleep well on the nights of full moon. And it's because the moon is doing something to their body. I'm a firm believer of it. We can do a poll, a quick one. I'm not sure how much time we have left. Or you're just all welcome to share your experiences. Do you sleep well during full moon, or do you feel that you are affected? I am definitely affected. Every month I have a terrible night's sleep at full moon, and we don't have blackout curtains as well, which is also not great. But that's the theory. It's all to do with the moon's sort of effect on water. Okay, we're going to do a quick poll. Does the full moon affect your sleep? Yay or nay? Definitely yay. Davi? Nay. Nay, okay. Davi sleeps through anything, including his alarm, everyone. So yes, you can all let us know. I'm intrigued actually what the results from this poll are going to be. Okay, so we're going to have it up for about 5 minutes, and then we'll collect all the results for those of you who have contributed. Let us know. I think this will be really interesting. Does the full moon affect your sleep? And the supermoon, oh my goodness, it's like I'm high on caffeine, and I'm not. I stopped drinking coffee after breakfast, really. But I feel that way when it's supermoon. Supermoon's an interesting time. It really does sort of bring about changes in animal behavior, especially animals that rely on the moon for their movements, especially sea turtles is a great example. You will have mass sort of numbers of sea turtles coming on land to lay their eggs on beaches during supermoon. So many nests that it's almost impossible to make your way around them all to protect them. It's incredible. Sea turtles also rely heavily on the moon, and the moons also affect the movements of manta rays. So it has a huge impact on oceanic species, is what I'm trying to say. We are almost at quarantine. I'm not quite sure where James is right now with his lucky chameleon find. We may bump into one another. I wonder if Natalie knows where James is. So we can just cover one more road in search of our last minute predator. We are all missing our predators. I do have a theory about the Nkuhumas. The Nkuhumas are our dominant territorial lion proud of Juma, and they've been missing for quite some time. They actually went missing around Christmas time, before New Year. Not missing, sorry, that's the wrong term. We know where they are, they're just not here. And we kept thinking they were going to come back, and they just didn't. They popped in, I think, twice to say hi, and then left again. Life seems to be better down south. They seem to have found a sort of vacant spot where they can survive and thrive with no threats and enough food. And of course the cubs are old enough now, so they don't really have to worry too much. Not all of them, but they don't have to worry too much about the cubs getting killed by other male lions. So essentially, I think, and it's just my opinion, I don't know if the Nkuhumas are going to come back. I think the Talamatis are going to push down. It'll be a slow process, but I think the Talamatis are going to try and take over Juma, and the Nkuhumas are eventually going to give it up. I think we're going through quite a change in our lion dynamics at the moment, and that's why Juma, as it stands, is vacant. It's a vacuum. Anyone could come in and take it. It's up for rent, or it's up for sale, in terms of lions. I'll head into quarantine from the other side. And let's see if we can get anything last minute. It was getting chilly too. I may need to put my jacket on. Okay, let's see what we can find for you now as darkness is truly setting in. For now, we're going to send you across to James and see what he's up to.
He is just driving currently. He is shining a light into the trees, hoping for some eyes to look back at him, shining, so that I may prevail upon Owen to cast his camera's gaze on whatever nocturnal creature it is that I have spotted. Unfortunately, I have not in fact spotted any nocturnal creatures. I suspect that they are all staying late in bed because of this rather evil wind that has come up. Perchance we shall be lucky, however, in the next 7 minutes or so that we have left on drive with you. Maybe another chameleon. Or, tell you what I'd really like to see here is a caracal. I haven't seen one yet. I believe they have been seen. They've been seen on the dam camera, but I have never seen one here. Nor have I seen a pangolin. I've seen one aardvark, but that aardvark was dead. Splayed out. We don't actually know what killed it, because it wasn't eaten. Any of those things would be great to see, full moon or not. Oh, Lauren's poll is now in, so let's go back and hear the results.
It's very windy, everyone. Oh my goodness. Can you see that, Davi? It's the giraffes. How cool. Okay, I'm not going to shine any spotlight on them because they're diurnal animals, but I am going to pull up here because there's 5 of them. Guys, this is so cool. Hey, I think James had giraffes earlier on today as well, and they're obviously huddled together. Giraffes are socially aloof. They're not essentially tight-knit in herds. Babies will always follow mothers, but essentially they don't. Oh, this is so lovely. No, there's 6. I'm sorry, everyone. I appear not to be able to count. But I do have the poll results. That I did not count. A computer did that. 61% of you say that you do sleep like a baby. And 39% of you say that you are affected by the moon. I am shocked. I'm really shocked by it. I thought it would be higher. I know Joy in Hong Kong, I remember we had this conversation together. I know that you're watching and you are definitely affected by the moon. I know that much. But I'm surprised to hear that it's as low as 39%. Wow. This is really, really cool. And I don't know if James mentioned this earlier, but there's a new study that's been released on giraffes because giraffes were always thought to be silent. They're really not silent. There was a study done, and it was in captive giraffes, I will say, but they used sort of acoustic technology to listen to the giraffes at nighttime. Now, we presume they're silent because our meager human ears don't hear anything, but they're communicating constantly through a low, very, very low, inaudible to humans hum. They hum to one another. That's the sound that they actually said giraffes make, is a humming sound. And this essentially keeps them safe. So they're continually letting one another know, because although they're a bit socially aloof and not territorial and not so tight-knit in their social bonding, they do show preference to spend time with their own kind. They do like to be around other giraffes. So they hum, and I'm sure they're communicating about threats, predators, movements. They are diurnal animals, so they will be able to see at night. But I am wondering if we are seeing these giraffes huddled together on quarantine because of the moon. For safety. They also know that weather like this and moon can bring the predators. Matthew, I don't think they are. In my experience, I don't find giraffes skittish. They won't let you get too close, but I do daily jogs around quarantine and I regularly bump into giraffes. Sometimes Swazi the hyena joins me too, and they wait until you get very close before they run. I don't personally find them that skittish. They are the lighthouses of the bush. They see everything, they hear everything, and of course, I've seen giraffes also stand up to predators. They are powerful animals, a lot of body mass behind their kicks. So they will run away from a pride of lions, but skittish in terms of vehicles and in terms of humans, I don't personally think so. This is such a nice ending to what has been a really good safari. And James mentioned it earlier, but I do want to say that of course there's many new people jumping on board. Actually, thousands of you, and thank you. It's great to have you all here. It's magical being able to do a live safari and you're all able to jump on board. You're here with us watching everything as it happens. Maybe there's a 1 or 2 second delay, but essentially you're watching everything as it happens, and we can talk, we can discuss things, we can do polls. That surprised me. James Hendry is probably going to tell me tonight that he is right over dinner. But I do just want to thank everyone for jumping on board. And of course we do this twice daily, so please keep jumping on board. One of these days we are going to find a leopard. So from all of us here at WildEarth, the presenters, cameramen and all of those girls in FC, please do join us again tomorrow, and thank you.